So we're getting started. Oh, I think, did Anissa drop? No, you're on the call. I wasn't seeing your screen. So I just wanted to acknowledge we have a new representative here on the call, Anissa Sanchez. You're Las Cruces, correct?
Yes, ma'am. I'm with Las Cruces Sustainability.
Awesome. So glad you can join and be part of the representation for Las Cruces. Just to kind of give you a quick kind of orientation, this is the steering committee for the Southwest Building Code Collaborative. And Las Cruces is a partner. And just so you know kind of who's on the call, we have 11 communities that are partners and also a number of technical partners that are grant recipients. And so this group are representatives from those communities. So you'll see a lot of great folks who are sustainability people, building officials, as well as some amazing technical partners from New Buildings Institute, which is our grant applicant. We've got Southwest Energy Efficiency Project here, LIS Phoenix, the Institute for Energy Solutions, and there are others. I'm just kind of calling out the ones that I see right in front of me. So welcome to the group.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
All right, we have a fairly easy agenda today, hopefully, although quite a bit of discussion, so hopefully everyone's going to be engaged. Just as a quick refresher, I want to give a little bit of an update on getting the two advisory committees set up. We have to have those kind of established, the rosters established by the end of September. And then the bulk of the discussion today, Jonathan's going to lead a discussion around the website. He's getting ready to get their web designer going and just wanted to kind of give you guys a sense of where they're at timeline and also get feedback from you on some of the things you'd like to see, like to have considered in the design. And then I do want to spend a few minutes at the end talking about upcoming meetings. As I've said in the last couple, there's a lot going to be coming your way. Things are kind of picking up. So want to make sure you've got a sense of what's coming down the pipeline, so you can make sure that you're hitting those meetings that are, have key topics for you. So the timeline for getting the technical advisory group and equity accountability panel out. We got the invitations out on the 5th. You should have all seen the emails for that. I hope you are please forwarding those on to your local stakeholders. We'd really like to see good representation from throughout the region. So we want to make sure we've got folks from, the full spread of Arizona and New Mexico. So please, get that out there and invite people to apply. So far, we have gotten one application to the equity panel, and I believe we have 6 applications to the technical advisory group. So starting to get some good applications in. So the way the process is going to work, this still says nominations. We went with application. Apologies, folks. Applications are due the end of this month, so the 30th. Once those are in, we will circulate that for all of you to review. And you will have, and unfortunately the Labor Day holidays in there, but you'll have through the 11th of September to review those. If you want to review and comment on all of them, rank them, that is all great. If you don't feel you have the time to go to that level of detail, at a minimum, we're asking all of you to identify anyone on either list that is an absolute must. Like, this person is fabulous. They really represent these issues well. We really would like to see them on the committee, or any that are problematic. I just know from experience, we have folks that are passionate in our community, do have some amount of expertise, but sometimes just don't work well in this kind of collaborative format, and maybe are, not, shouldn't be top of the list. But your stakeholders best, and so we're really asking you all individually to provide that input and those thoughts. Once we get that, the core team will meet on the 12th, and ideally we'll come up with a recommended roster for both groups. We'll send that out by the next day, which is the Friday, for final review. And then when we meet the following week with you guys, it'll be to discuss that recommendation. And hopefully we can finalize that on the 19th. If so, we'll start sending out confirmations on the 20th. We do have a little bit of wiggle room if there's some additional conversation or follow-ups that are needed, but we really need to have confirmations sent out by the 27th, because the first meeting will be the 29th. And it's really important we give folks a good month of notice before the first meeting. So that's the timeline for that. And again, please get that invite out. If you need me to resend it, let me know. And encourage everyone in your community that you think would be great to have on one of these two committees to apply, and look for the applications to be sent out after the 30th. So any questions there? Anything, concerns, thoughts? Okay. All right, Jonathan.
Leslie,
Oh,
if
go
I
ahead.
can,
You kind of moved too fast.
Lisa, did you want to go ahead and go? Sorry if I cut you off.
No, go ahead. I was going to say something as well, but go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that in setting up the tag, we were looking at the timeline and the applications that went out. And I know I talked to Lisa, and I think Leslie and we've set up a meeting with LISC coming up. So looking over, how to incorporate equity considerations appropriately into the tag, and what the relationship between the tag and the EAP will be, and thinking through, at least from my perspective, just understanding really what the final deliverable is from the tag, and understanding a few of those details. I would like to have a better understanding of that as we go into the tag. So I think we'll have a few meetings trying to set up a discussion through some one-on-one meetings or some smaller meetings on the side over the next few weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think thanks so much, Kevin, for that. Just to let folks know. So Kevin, myself, Ryan Coker, and Stella Carr from ICC had a meeting yesterday. I see Ryan's on. I know that Stella is maybe in transit. And building off of what Kevin said, I think it's really important that we have a rubric for what, first of all, getting to Kevin's point, what is it that we want out of the tag? And then a rubric of what that would look like in terms of selecting candidates. I will say that we talked about the condensed timeline. There might be a need to shift things slightly, because we're starting with 4 years, so we want to do this right up front. I think there are ways to accommodate that, but I do want to bring that up in terms of needing to have time to have those thoughtful, intentional discussions about what it is that we want from the tag, what the rubric would be to reflect that, and then, as Kevin said, sort of what's the iteration with the other programs that are going, like with the EAG and then the CBO. So everybody recognizes that things have to get moving, but sometimes they move too fast. So I do want to bring that up, that there might be something that comes out of the discussions in the next couple of weeks that makes this timeline have to shift some. So we can have a longer discussion, but I want to highlight that. Oh, yeah. Ryan, you're coming in too, so thanks.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something. I think one of the important sort of outcomes that hopefully we get from this project is that we engage folks that are sort of outside our networks. And, as Lisa mentioned, I think that takes a little bit of sort of outreach and engagement, because they don't know us, they don't know, sort of what we're trying to accomplish. And so being able to sort of have a little bit deeper conversation and sort of time to build that relationship, I think, is really important. So I think, that's I think a key as well.
Yeah. And I get, we need to have a good, thoughtful process. We also need to keep in mind, we've committed to a certain number of meetings by the end of this budget period. So we are we need to make sure that we hit our deliverables as well. So that's a counterpoint to the conversation that needs to be taken into account. David, do you have something?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to echo the sentiments that have been brought up by our colleagues. I think that's good to know that other folks are thinking about this and trying to be as mindful and intentional as possible. I think in the spirit of being as accountable as we absolutely can be to the communities that are going to be most impacted by this work, I think that, for our perspective, I think the same goes for the EAP as much as it does the tag. And I'd like to offer, the fact that I think that while we do have some milestones and deliverables that we need to meet, I think we have time to be able to do those still, but while also making our commitments and continuing to show accountability to these communities in the right way, in a way that's inclusive and equitable. I know that I've shared with this group in the past, if you'll indulge me, Leslie, really quickly, but I mean, over the summer, we held a 2-day climate convening, and the second day we had a really great conversation with a lot of Indigenous leaders from all around the Arizona, just as a precursor to the work that we know that we're going to have to do with this. I'm going to pop the report that we've already put out, and I think I've shared it with the group already, but I'm going to pop it into the chat just so that people can take a look. People can sort of look at our findings from a preliminary standpoint, and I'm happy to chat with anybody in this group offline about, sort of what this looks like and how we're going to move forward from our perspective. But I'm in total agreement with what some of the things that people have brought up.
Before we go on, Mary, to you, I just want to check in with Jonathan because getting the input on the website is really super timely because he's getting ready to engage the web designer like right now. How are you on time with what you need to?
I think that I would like to have a minimum of 30 minutes and probably a little bit more than that would allow for more and better discussion.
Okay. So Mary, is this kind of quick? And then then we transition to Jonathan. Okay.
Sure. Awesome. I totally understand that. I also want to say, and thank you all for raising these concerns, but also really thinking through what accountability looks like. We are already, for the equity accountability group, already having pushback from ideal community members. They have questions that are very thoughtful around rigor, around the rubric, around translation. And so I think we absolutely need more time to remain accountable to those folks, because we're in conversation with folks that have disabilities, unsheltered and tenant rights housing folks, Indigenous folks up north, and all of them are expressing some type of reservation about the speed in which this is unfolding. So that's not just from our concern, we're actually receiving that feedback from folks, and I think we really need to heed that. With that, thank you all so much, Jonathan.
And I will unshare because I think you've got slides.
I do. Yeah, great. So thanks. Let me get this set up, and then there we go. And are you all seeing a screen that has RECCE website overview of next steps and steering committee feedback?
Yes.
Great. Okay. It's always a trick to get the windows all in the right place. I think I can still see the chat. I can still see some people's faces. So that's great. My name is Jonathan Bean. I am the director of the Institute for Energy Solutions at the University of Arizona. And I just wanted to let you know a little bit more or remind you about our role in this project. So IES has responsibility for delivering a website, for delivering the Living Implementation Guide in collaboration with everyone here, because that's going to be sort of the product of what we're doing, and hopefully the way that a lot of it gets implemented and actually makes impact and change out in the broader world. So it's really humbling to have that responsibility, and I want to make sure that we do it well and do it right. And To that end, we also have an additional resource that we're contributing to the project outside of the immediate funds. We were able to secure some internal funding from the university to hire a postdoc. We're starting the hiring process for that person now after some delays related to the hiring freeze, the university's hiring freeze, and some other contracting issues, but we should be moving forward with that, I hope, very quickly, and I will be introducing somebody to you new soon in the next few meetings. So I'm excited about that. And one of the things that postdoc is going to do is a meta study of the process that's underway here. So that person will have responsibility both for delivering, for contributing to the deliverables, and the ones that are most front and center for me right now have to do with the website and the Living Implementation Guide, as you'll see in the next couple of slides. But that person will also be a point of a resource so that we can make sure that when other things come up that aren't really part of the scope of the building code, that they end up someplace where they can actually have change and influence. And whether that's a net zero roadmap or as part of our broader study saying, hey, like, you know, all of these things are entangled and intertwined with building code implementation. So I was sort of listening to some of the conversations coming into this, and I think this is all very important. And I just want to make sure that you know that's been heard, and there is a place for that to influence future processes. Going forward, I wanted to discuss kind of our approach to the website. So we're going to have two websites or two versions. We'll have one website address, but technically speaking, we're going to have two separate sites. And the reason for this is because in the conversations with both the strategic designer and the website designer that will be working with us, and in some preliminary conversations with the sort of working website committee, we recognize that there's some big questions still about, like, who are our audiences, like how are we going to, what's the nature of of the outcome or the output that this process will produce, that are still to be determined through the processes that we were just discussing, through the technical advisory group, through the equity advisory panel, through all of the work that we're going to do in the future. So some of the questions that the website designer and the strategic designer brought to us weren't really answerable in this forum, but we do know right now that we need a site that fulfills some core functions needed to communicate communication and involvement among all the people here, and then all the people that'll be coming on board in the near term. So that's where we're going to start. The version 2 site will focus on the Living Implementation Guide, and that is a longer term project that gives us time to plan and gather a lot of input. And you see the milestones, the associated dates over there on the right side of the slide here that we're targeting for that. But the version 1 site we're going to try to get up by the end of September 24. I'm not even going to say try. We'll be up by the end of September 2024, recognizing that that's a really critical part of the puzzle right now that's missing, and that will help invite people into the process. So for this first version 1 site, we're going to have input from the steering committee and the website committee. For the version 2 site, there'll be a much more rigorous and wider process of involvement, involving input from all of the different participants and groups in the grants. One of the reasons that I introduced the postdoc and the postdoc's role to you is that the postdoc will actually be sitting in on many of these conversations. So there will be somebody there with direct knowledge of the kind of what's happened in the conversation. There'll be somebody in the meeting that you can direct requests to, hey, that should be on the website, or why doesn't the website have this? So there'll be that point of contact. We will also make sure to have a liaison for parts of the project that don't have that connection to the postdoc. From there, we'll take things up to the website committee and the design team that we've contracted with, and then that will influence the structure for the V2 site. So another way of looking at this is what's the content and the audience. So the version 1 site is really an internal audience. It's for us. It's for people who are going to be intimately involved in the process, or who need to be made aware of it. And at the end of this process, the core content will be a record of the process and involvement. In the meantime, it'll be a core reference for things that are right now maybe a little difficult to access on the SharePoint site, or things like meeting recordings, agendas, presentations like this one, just an easier to access and more central repository, sort of a friendlier face for the project, put it that way. The version 2 website the core content there is the 12 implementation guides that we are obligated to provide as a part of the project. And the audiences there are going to be external. I think that those are, we can imagine what many of those audiences would be now, but we're not really sure exactly who they are. So that will be determined in consultation with this group. One question that came up and that we started to explore and that I wanted to bring to the group, and then the rest of the time here is going to be interactive. I'm going to send you off to a Jamboard and we're going to have an actual conversation. But I wanted to start here because in some ways this is both well, there's different dimensions to this question. So some folks that have been voiced an opinion so far have really wanted a friendlier name than the Resilient Southwest Regional Building Code Collaborative, which is the title of our project as it's described in the SOPO. Leslie's been shortening it to Resilient Southwest Building Code Collaborative in the presentations. So that would be another one, but both of those are quite long. When I've been out at other events, talking to people from DOE, from nonprofits in the sort of broader policy and code world, RECCE, the acronym, and now has some sort of recognition, like people know what that is. So that may be another approach to naming our project, or we may want to go in an entirely different direction and call it something else. The strategic designer that I've been speaking with, and also I worked in communications and design before I went back to school, and so this also resonates with my own experience and knowledge. Naming is really complicated to do it right. Just like anything else, involves a lot of time and a skilled facilitator and a lot of listening and thinking and careful strategy. So we do not have right now anticipated in the current budget hiring somebody to help us with that. That process, if we were to hire out an external person, which would be my strong recommendation, would cost somewhere between $7,000 and $12,000. And my question for the group is, number one, like, is that a good use of resources, or is that the best use of resources for us? Do you think we need a branding or naming process, or maybe you just have an idea for a name and we can all coalesce around it and save some money? So with that, I'm going to switch over. I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to switch to the interactive part of our presentation, if I can figure out how to do that. So in the chat, there is a link to a Google Jamboard. And if you would click on that link, yep, there is an opinion. Clayton, if you could just hold your thought just for a second, because I'm giving you a place that I hope will be better, easier for us to relate to others and to see together. So if you pop open that link, I can share my screen. If you are having trouble accessing this, I'm more than happy to, and I can volunteer Jen Garcia for this as well. If you want to type something in the chat and just say, hey, I can't access the Jamboard, or I'm having issues with that, can you please add something? We'll be glad to try to be your scribe for that. So you should see this Jamboard here. So the first question is, do you have an idea for a name for our project that you would like to see us implement? And then if you are of the opinion that naming branding is not the best use of resources, you can put a little dot next to this. If you really think we just don't need one, you can put a dot down here. If you have a different opinion, you can put something. It occurs to me I haven't added a yes, we should rebrand our name for sure. So I'll put that over here. Are folks having not seeing any activity here. So I'm wondering if people are having
I
trouble
can't
getting into
edit
the
the
site.
board. I can't add a post-it note or move anything. Maybe it's just me.
No, same
Oh.
here. It
I'm just
doesn't
have view
to-
only access.
So it looks like you're going to have to ask for access.
Nope,
Jonathan.
please do not ask for access. Please just reload it
Oh.
because I just changed the setting that I had forgotten to
Oh.
change before.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That worked.
Great. Sorry about that, everybody. Haven't used one of these in a bit. I thought, wow, people are really, really disengaged today. Unusual for this group. So glad it was just my mistake. All right, you see a name that you like, you can also throw a sticky dot on it. If you want to make other comments, that would be great too. Okay, we'll let this go another minute or two. You can control and access this Jamboard at, or you can go to different frames in this Jamboard at different times. So if you have a brilliant idea as we're having as we're talking about a different topic, you can click back a couple slides and then add it here. So. Great. I think there's some consensus emerging here. Maybe not consensus, but patterns. I think I see some patterns here. Right. Oh, Lisa says that she likes resilient and equitable language. She just can't find a way to add a sticky note to say as much. So this panel over on the left-hand side of your screen, there's got like a little pen icon. There's a sticky note icon. So if you click on that, it will pop up a sticky note. You can choose what color and type into there, and then just add a sticky note.
Thank you.
So there's also a pen. You can draw things on here, scribble in the corners. Okay, I think this is a yeah, we have, I think, a larger number of people who feel that naming or branding is not the best use of resources. We have some identifications around sort of shortening existing names. There's some recognition that resilience and equitable is important. So I think is the word Southwest absolutely necessary for our mission? That's a great question. Do we want to just chat about that for a minute or two? Like, how specific do we want this to be to a region?
Well, that was really, sorry, I should turn my camera back on. That was really kind of the fundamental building block of this, is something specific to our region, something specific to our issues, and the unique circumstances that are driven in a large part by being part of the Colorado River Basin. You know, we ended up with Arizona and New Mexico on the final application. We had conversations with Nevada that fell apart when, right before the application opened up, they went from having a Democratic governor to a Republican governor. And we've had some conversations with Utah and with Colorado as well. So there is a broader interest So I think whether it's part of the formal naming or not, I think the Southwest piece really is very relevant because it gets at the fact that this isn't, you know, a state level code. And it does have a unique geographic scope and context.
Great. Yeah, and there's some questions. I think another question in the chat, if it's not Southwest focused, how is it different than the published model codes? And I think that this is also, at least from my understanding of the intent of this program from DOE, was to recognize that when you have a really broad focus on you know, a model code that is applicable as universally as possible, that you sort of lose some resolution and possibility that might be you know, might be open if you looked at more granular situations. All right, I think that this will be helpful to us, and my thinking here, just sort of top of line. I think there's some great thoughts here that can inform the designer and the approach that we take to the name, or maybe we can think of it as a nickname for the project that we can approach, that we can use. So thanks for that. If you have other ideas, you can click through, so that if you go to the top of your screen, there's a little thing here that says 1 to 5. 1 to 5. There's 5 different slides, and we're going to switch over here to look at different. Well, we're looking at the website in particular, and these are questions that are coming from the designer and the strategic designer and the website designer. So they're really curious in knowing what other websites that you know, preferably ones you like, that in the broader world, that would help sort of place our effort, or we would like to see our effort kind of placed amongst these as a good example. So I started us off with one, which is the website that was built for around the Marshall Fire in Colorado to help people rebuild. But if you would add some of these, you can either, again, add a Post-it note by clicking over on the left, or just use one of the ones that's already on the screen. If you'd like to add a few notes about why you like it, or if you want to provide a negative example, that's fine too, but maybe just indicate that you like this is a website that you don't like so much, so we don't point them in the wrong direction. And I think it's okay to think pretty broadly here about you know, if there are other nonprofits, collectives, collaboratives that you know, websites for things that are achieving change. I think I would describe the category that way at a really high level.
Hey, Jonathan, do you still have that list from, I don't know, several months ago that we gave? Okay, great, because I was going to try to find it, but if I know you already have it, that's wonderful. All right, cool.
Yeah, this is, I didn't want to be too leading here of the larger group, but
no, that's great. As long as you have it, because it was going to be a daunting task for me to try to figure out where that was. So thank you for being the archivist there.
Jonathan, I'm sorry, I can't access this anymore. So I just dropped it in the chat. If somebody on your team
sure.
would. Thank you so much. I apologize.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. So this is a good example, I take it.
I think so, of a website to look at. Is that what your landscape website, similar efforts?
Yeah,
and specifically oriented toward Indigenous people as well in the Southwest.
Yeah, you can think of this as sort of a reference set or comparative set for the designers that can sort of see what else that we're familiar with, what else that we like. They've asked for 10 to 15 of these. And it would be okay if, if you're representing an organization, I think it would be entirely appropriate to put your own organization's website up on this list. So if you think it's a good example.
I think I accidentally put one over somebody else's. My bad. I think we were editing at the same time.
Yep, I just took care of that.
Okay.
Great, looks like a couple more are coming through here. Great, now they're coming in. I think Shay will add that to the board. It looks like, yeah, we're running into some overriding issues. So if you would click on making a new sticky note, which is this over on the left-hand side, it's the fourth from the top, close to the center. I think that would stop the overriding issues. I'll just add this one back in. Okay, I think this is a good start for us. And there are other places I think where we're likely to have a little bit more discussion. So I'm going to move us on. If you think of others, you can come back and add them here. So if you click the next, go to frame 3 of 5. I have populated this with some of the really high-level functions for the version 1 website. So I want to preface this activity by emphasizing that we're looking at the first website. So we're not thinking about the implementation guide. We're just thinking about the website that we need up and running by the end of September, if not earlier, to make sure that we've got a good presence for this, to make sure that people are informed. So I've put some of the things that I know that we need from conversations and discussions, and with different folks. And I would love it if you would identify more of these or add, add some nuance that you think would be helpful.
Hey, and Jonathan, could you just remind us, is this going to be completely publicly facing? Is some of this sort of behind the scenes? Like, how is this website going to interact?
That's a great question. So already we've identified that there's the need to have at least, well, to have some of the website content password protected and only available to us. And so that will be things like recordings of meetings, slides, that kind of thing that are meant really as internal deliberations and discussions. So that part of the website would be private or private to us. We also will have a public or outward-facing website that anyone who goes to the website address would be able to access. And so that's over here on the left. Those kinds of functions are intended to be grouped under where it says available to everyone. And then where it says available to grant partners, password protected, that's where those meetings, recording slides, minutes, that kind of thing would be.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Sure. Oh, great suggestions here. The designers are going to be thrilled. Thank you. Okay. There's also a column here if you have a strong idea for what the version 2 site should be like, or something that it should do, some function it should serve, you're welcome to put ideas there for that. One of the functions of this exercise today too is to help us make sure that we've distributed our budget appropriately across the period that we have. So great. And I can already see there's some desire for probably video content, longer form narrative. One of the questions I had for the group here also was, do we need a definition of what a building code is and isn't? And the reason that I asked that question is because there are things that I think have already sort of bubbled up in this process that aren't really the scope or remit of building codes, but that building codes do either influence indirectly or directly. And so how do we want to try to deal with that sort of cause and effect, chicken and egg kind of issue? Alternatively, we could just say we're not going to define building codes. They've been defined in other places. They have, a clear regulatory definition and policy definition. So we don't need to worry about that.
LISC, I think that's a good idea. The LISC Resilient Building Codes Toolkit document has a good overview. Like the first part of it goes over what building codes are. So you could even just, link to that maybe. And we also have the roadmap in addition to the code. So I don't know if we want to define a roadmap. Not sure if that's helpful.
The full name for the roadmap is the Zero Carbon. Is that correct?
Leslie, do you know?
Sorry, it took me a second to unmute. About definition of building code?
No, the roadmap that we have is
what's the official name for the roadmap?
Oh, we just called it net zero roadmap. We left energy out of it because folks wanted to also address water.
Great. Okay, and it strikes me that I think we might need to prioritize some of these things. So I'll add some circles here that we can use to indicate priority. And I'm going to ask everyone, if there are only 3 things that it can do, please put the dot on the 3 things that the website can do. If you stuck your dot on building details in library, you can leave it there, but if you would please put another one over. Whoa, that's a really big dot. Great. Right, and we're responsible for providing the text content So that's not getting outsourced. That is going to come from us. And when I say us, I mean IES plus the wisdom of the group. So it strikes me that one of the things that's going to be a really important conversation to have over the next few weeks is to make sure that we can answer this why question in a really coherent, condensed way that is that's representative of the group. I think that's going to be, quite frankly, I think that's going to be a bit of a challenge, but I think that's really important and will be a great clarifying exercise for us as we go forward. So it seems like it's really clear what we need here. An overview of the project. I'm going to just temporarily stick these in front so I can read them. A map of the jurisdictions and stakeholders involved. I think that's fantastic. And then this why question. And I think that we can get a lot of these other things in. So one of the things that I'll work on here is creating a sort of a taxonomy of the information to make sure that we can get enough of this information in. And the Spanish translation is also, I think, an essential component of this. So we'll be sure to have that. Okay, let's move forward. The designer is really interested in this in terms of determining a visual style for the version 1 website. And I think this is the thing that is, if it's going to change between the version 1 and the version 2 website, this is probably what will change the most because we have different audiences and different constituencies imagined for those two websites. But this is a sort of a traditional exercise where you try to identify where you think that the brand image should fall based on some of these characteristics. And this will influence the visuals and the quality of the design that the designer works with. So you can just move these circles over, copy and paste if you need to make another one, and try to land one on each scale. Putting something on a 5 means it's kind of like saying like it doesn't really matter that much. So great, I can make some more circles. Great, thanks everybody. It looks like we have some converging preferences, which is fantastic. And this last question, do you think our site should stand out or fit in? That's really helpful in terms of interpreting some of those reference sites that you provided. So you may have a specific one in mind, or maybe you thought of another example as we've been working through this. If you want to click back to the first slide or the first frame, I think that's what they're called, you're welcome to add that there. Giant circles. Do we need a few more circles? Add those here. All right, I think we are approaching the end of that slide. And let's go to the last one. So this is a fairly influential idea from that actually started, I am proud to say, in in academia, and then influenced a bunch of brands. And I'll just give you a really quick example here of how this is manifest in some brands that you might have experience with. So there are different qualities to brands. These are based on like aspects of human personality, and we expect different things of different kinds of relationships and different personalities. So if you have a really sincere, brand persona, then it's really bad to like let someone down as that sincere brand, because it's a big violation of the sort of personality that you've projected and the expectations that people have in that relationship. So like an example of a sincere brand is something like IBM. And a more exciting brand might be something like Trader Joe's, or I'll stick with grocery store examples. Like you can think of like Albertsons or Safeway. Like these are sort of sincere, competent brands where you go and you expect to get good food, and maybe you pay a little bit extra, but you also expect them to have well-stocked shelves and an organized store. Trader Joe's really leans into the excitement dimension, where if you go to Trader Joe's and the store's a little bit messy, you're like, wow, everyone's here, that's cool. Or if they're out of something, you think, I should have gotten here earlier, this must be really good. You don't really get mad at them for not having it. So that's sort of an aspect of how brand personality is manifest in terms of the expectations people see on brands. So you can move these things around if you want. I think you can. Yeah, move these things around if you want to circle one component or the main dimension of brand personality, or you can use the pen and just circle something like that.
Hey, Jonathan, should we be picking one choice under each of the major categories?
You can pick the category itself or one choice, but if each person would just choose one.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's no way to lock things down on these boards, so yeah, they can get moved. So the distribution here echoes some earlier conversations that I've had with a couple different folks, but we seem to be landing here on sincerity and really a focus on sincerity and honesty, with some emphasis on being daring, up-to-date, imaginative. So people are getting creative by using color to emphasize the ones that they really feel strongly about. You can draw on this. We have a few minutes left in the meeting. Is there anything you'd like me to take back to the designers? This will be the primary input that they have, along with conversations in terms of coming up with a visual identity for the version 1 site.
Jonathan, just one quick question. I guess maybe this is part of the branding question. Are we also anticipating potentially sort of a logo of sorts?
That is a possibility, yes.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
And that was why we led off with that naming question, because the logo, the visual expression of the logo and the name are very closely related, obviously.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm going to say one more thing. If that is the case, and I know Shay's on the call, Shay, I loved your idea about the cactus being a symbol of resilience. So I just kind of wanted to put that back out there. So I hope I'm not embarrassing you, Shay, but I thought that was really creative.
Great. I'll make sure that that gets passed to the designer, and Shay is part of that discussion, part of that committee as well.
Thanks,
All right.
Lisa.
Well,
I just
great.
said thanks, Lisa.
The next steps for us, I'll be in touch with folks on the ad hoc website committee. Yeah, these Jamboard formats, Kimberly just said she really liked that input. Unfortunately, these aren't going to work after October 1st. They're going over to things that are much more, in my opinion, more complicated to use, which is very sad. Yeah. These are nice, sort of easy to get into. Just have only the tools that you need and none that you don't. But I'll pass this along to the designers. We're going to have a regular meeting with the website designer, with the strategic designer, and that will have that meeting until the website is ready to share. So I'm hoping that if not in the next steering committee meeting, then absolutely the one after that, we will be looking at our version 1 website. And then as the project unfolds, as we become clear on what kinds of outputs we're going to imagine, I look forward to having more conversations about what's going to be part of version 2 and how we can make those, all of the resources that we'll be developing for the Living Implementation Guide really powerful and useful to folks. So thanks so much. If you have any more input or thoughts, feel free to add a sticky note to the Jamboard. I think I'll be sending that off to the design team at the end of the day. So just add stuff to it soon. And then if you have any other comments, you're more than welcome to get in touch with me. I'll put my email address and phone number over here in the chat, and you're welcome to contact me either way at any time. All right, Leslie, back to you.
All right, thanks, Jonathan. That was fantastic. So just to wrap up real quick, I just wanted to put this was from a PowerPoint or a slide deck earlier in the year, just to remind everybody, we have certain things that we need to get done during budget period 1. The items that are highlighted, standing up the equity advisory panel, the technical advisory group, getting a community engagement plan in place, starting the IECC training, getting the website stood up, and getting the surveys going are all things we have commitments to do by the end of this year. So those are the specific pieces of budget period 1. So that's kind of what's driving these meetings through the end of the year. So today was website discussion so that Jonathan can get what he needs, kind of what we're anticipating for the rest of the year is conversations next month to finalize TAG and EAP rosters, probably some discussion around decision making in the committees in that context, because that's due to DOE, both the initial project website and the committee rosters and meeting schedule by the end of September. In October, we're hoping to see the initial kind of high level, maybe not results, but concepts that are coming back from the surveys. And we really need to start a discussion about the framework for the Regional Resilience Code. Kevin alluded earlier to kind of really making sure we have framed out what the different kind of deliverables look like. So it'll probably be more than just the Resilience Code, and look at the net zero roadmap and some of the implementation resources in more detail. And then once we get into November, I see I didn't make all the updates I wanted. Community engagement plan. The idea is to have a draft before you then, before it goes out to even broader review. That needs to be finalized by the end of the year. And then the final December meeting, we're hoping to focus on finalizing the framework for the Regional Resilience Code. ICC's requested that we have that high-level framework done by the end of the year so they can start planning ahead and figuring out like the code development process. and we're right at 2. I just want to give everyone a heads up. I'm going to go ahead. I haven't heard any concerns about the day and time for this meeting, so I'm going to go ahead and get the 2025 meetings scheduled. And we're also working on an actual calendar of both meetings and some of the main tasks that are happening to help you guys stay informed about what's going on and know what's coming up in the future. So, all right, minute over, but I will let you go. And again, thank you for excellent conversation today.
Thanks, Leslie.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.